All right, folks, let's just get to business. This is Screen Watching. We talk about the movies, we talk about the TV shows. Folks, we're talking maybe a little bit more about the movies, a little less about the TV, but still there'll be some TV, but just really a lot of movies. This week on the podcast, we're talking about the new, I think it's a Stephen King adaptation. It's called The Long Walk. We've got a movie from, I don't know, maybe one of cinema's greatest auteurs. His name is Spike Lee. Leigh, Lee, I don't know. I'm pretty new to this guy, but he's got a new movie out. It's called Highest to Lowest. I'm going to take a look at that one. Simon's handling The Long Walk. TV, we're going to do some of that. Task, it's the new show from Brad Inglesby. He's the gentleman that did one of the best TV shows of the last couple of years. That was called Mayor of Easttown. He's got a new one with Mark Ruffalo. I've got some thoughts. But yes, there's a reason why I'm maybe putting it towards the end of the podcast. There's a new documentary series called AKA Charlie Sheen, the star of Hot Shots Part 2. And then also Simon's taking a look at the animated feature film Lesbian Space Princess. Why did he press play on that one? I'll give you a clue, people. It wasn't the word princess in the title. It wasn't the word space. Folks, this is Screen Watching.
This is not like TV, only better.
Television! Teacher, mother!
Secret lover.
What, that's it? That's your movie?
Well, I said that I had an idea for a movie.
Folks, we're putting it into the minutes of the podcast that Simon Foster is well, and I too am also well. Simon Foster, big question for you. I know you're not a TV guy, but the Emmy Awards are coming this Monday. Do you have a hot take, a prediction you want to make before the awards?
How many nominations does 8 is Enough have? That's always been a popular show in my household. Look it up, kids. Hello, everyone. Do I have a bolter amongst the... I think, obviously, the studio is going to feature very heavily.
In the comedy categories.
In the comedy categories. I think that's going to be the buzzy sort of winner on a lot of fronts. Where do you stand on the dramatic side of things? Who's going to be the breakout show?
Look, I think the studio is going to do well because, man, Hollywood loves TV shows that are about Hollywood. So
They sure do, yep.
Yeah, look, I think that's pretty much a lock. If it wasn't the studio, I think that the other Apple TV Plus show, Shrinking, would probably be the one to take away a whole bunch of awards. But the studio is there, so I think it's going to do some business. In terms of dramas, look, if you want to put some safe money down, the safe money down is for a pretty clean sweep of Severance. Okay, the Apple TV Plus drama, which is just interesting that it would be Apple TV Plus. But I actually think that while Severance did quite well for the first season, 7 years ago, whenever that came out, I think you're going to find that The Pit is going to take the lion's share of the awards. I think you might still see one or two slides towards Severance.
Yeah, but I thought you were going to say The Pit. That seems to be the front runner in a lot of the chit-chat.
Where I think The Pit has it over Severance is that, one, it's kind of this new show that's coming along that people are just generally into. And so that goes a long way. There's very few surprises when it comes to the Emmy Awards. You just kind of feel like the energy kind of comes around one or two shows. Where I think The Pit, and I'd say that Severance and The Pit are fairly well matched in terms of enthusiasm around the place. But The Pit also marks a return from a streaming world to old school TV where they're producing more than just a handful of episodes every year. That was a 15 episode season. And I kind of think that Hollywood wants to reward that. Particularly, it's a show that is being filmed in Los Angeles. So from political reasons, I think people dig this one. Filmed in Los Angeles, 15 episodes a year, and it feels like old school TV, which I think the Emmys really want to get back to in a pretty major way. So,
now,
I'd put my my assumptions there, but smart money's probably on Severance.
Can you clear one thing up for me? Now, if on that sort of basis, the fact that it's 15 episodes a year, that would suggest that the weight of content that the Pit is putting forward for nominations is overwhelmingly good. But do they have to nominate a specific episode?
It's single episodes. So
single episodes, okay.
Yeah.
So do you know which one of the Pit they've put forward?
I'm not too sure. I mean, my assumption would be there is... You haven't watched The Pit, have you?
I've watched a couple of episodes. It's fine. It's ER all over.
Yeah. Well, look, the show builds and builds till it gets to one very specific episode, which is one of the most traumatic things I've seen on TV, maybe ever. It's a very impressive hour of TV. I would assume that hour, and if you've watched the show, you know which episode I'm talking about, I'd say that's probably the one.
Okay. All right. So The Pit, Severance / for the major awards, studio to clean up across the comedy stuff. The Tech Awards were interesting through the week. There were some nice wins there for some of our popular shows. I'm glad that Julianne Nicholson won for Hacks. She was very funny in that role. Generally, are you going to be tuning in? I know you're not an award show guy. You get on snarky around award season.
Yeah, I know. I've been less and less interested in the Emmy Awards the last couple of years, but I usually put a bit of effort in and watch that. I'll watch that. I'll watch the Academy Awards, but give me a Golden Globe, and I think I'm more than happy to and get my hair done. Folks,
what's left of your hair? Let's talk about reviews.
Let's do that. All right, Simon, I think the exciting, real sort of prestige movie of the week is highest to lowest. But no, let's talk about The Long Walk instead. Let's play the trailer.
I'm Ray Garrity. You can call me Ray.
Prima Freeze.
Hank Olson's the name. Walking's my game.
I ain't many that are built like me. I'm the last of my kind.
We did the very first long walk years ago to inspire everyday people.
Smile, boys. You're on candid camera.
Man, you gotta not think about the things out of your control. Think about your plan.
Personally, I can't stop thinking about all that money.
When Stephen King wrote The Long Walk back in 1967, he was a young college student and the Vietnam War was picking off his friends one at a time. The allegory in the original story, written in 1967, is very, very obvious. Potent and very potent. Young men who sort of come from all sides of the tracks, all socio-economic backgrounds, they find friendship and they break down social barriers when flung together, and they're marching towards their inevitable annihilation. That's what his story, The Long Walk, was. That is certainly what Vietnam was. Now, it's taken a long time to bring this story to the screen. Largely for in practical terms, it's really just about a group of people walking, and if you're going to show the real horrors of the story and match the symbolism of the original text, then you're going to have to show some pretty graphic violence as well. And this movie does that. What it's done is that it's sort of reshaped the metaphor, reshaped the symbolism. So this isn't a story about the Vietnam War anymore, but it's more about chasing the American dream, because this group of 50 young men, one from every state, go on this, as the title suggests, a long walk until they can't walk anymore. And when they can't walk anymore, they're put out of their misery by a group of soldiers who are following behind. The last man standing gets amazing wealth, gets all his wishes made true, and becomes a national hero. So the American dream is what's in the spotlight here in terms of symbolism. That the American dream being wealth, and wealth becomes the overriding factor in this story, which really sort of focuses in on two individuals, played by Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson, a young white guy and a young black guy from two very different parts of the world, and how they, as you know, obviously it's not giving anything away to say they're the last two standing, but the ending itself says some pretty potent, powerful things about military fascism, which is another aspect of this story that seems particularly relevant today. It's directed by Francis Lawrence, who had some success with his dystopian films, The Hunger Games, a few years ago. It does feature a lot of really raw violence. It certainly features a lot of really raw language. This was written by King at about the same time as he did Stand By Me, or give or take. And you do recognise a lot of the same sort of beats in the dialogue as those four boys walking along the train tracks had in that film. There's a group of boys that all talk and riff on each other and insult each other in a similar sort of way. King's dialogue doesn't always translate well to the screen. In fact, a lot of King's stories don't translate that well to the screen, but on the short list of very good ones, The Long Walk is right up there. I was surprised at how much affected by this I was. It's not a visually exciting movie. Francis Lawrence doesn't do a whole lot with his camera that sort of razzle-dazzles, but he leans into the characters and he leans into what they're going through with a really sort of finely tuned ear. So The Long Walk was a real surprise. I think it's a pretty terrific film.
Yeah, moving on, let's take a look at the new Spike Lee movie. Folks, you may know Spike Lee. He does a lot of razzle, and he does a hell of a lot of dazzle. Folks, let's watch the clip.
New mixes of mood music. I need a theme. Theme music.
Wake up, y'all. The king's here.
Got to pay
buying back, stacking his records. It's a lot of money. There's more to life than just making money. It's integrity. That's what you stand for.
What you think?
I think you gotta be a little crazy sometimes in this world to get what you want.
King David, now ain't this something? I got your full attention now, huh? You finally listening to me.
Somebody's got Trey.
What do you mean somebody's got?
Somebody's kidnapped our son.
All right, Simon, we've got ourselves a Spike Lee movie which was made by A24 for a streaming service called Apple TV+. What that means is that nobody saw this movie, which is unfortunate because this is probably one of my favorite movies of the year, if not maybe slightly edging towards my favorite, if not for the final scene of the movie. The premise of this one is, actually look, the premise of this one's probably fairly familiar if you've read the Ed McBain novella, I think it is. He wrote this book back in 1959, which was about the moral dilemmas of this wealthy guy whose son is kidnapped. We'll talk about the plot in just a moment. You may have seen this film made as High and Low, which is the Akira Kurosawa film from the mid-60s. You may also have seen this adapted just 2 to 3 years ago as an HBO miniseries called Full Circle, which was a Steven Soderbergh directed joint written by Ed Solomon, his frequent collaborator. But this is the latest version of this, and it's called Highest to Lowest with a 2 in the middle. It's not a sequel though, which is, my understanding of movie convention titles. Very much so. But the premise of this one is you got Denzel Washington. You may be familiar with him. He does the acting. Denzel Washington, he's a record producer. He's one of these guys where, he's kind of a bit of a legend. People sort of revere this guy. He produced a huge number of very influential acts in the late 90s, early 2000s apparently, made a large amount of money. Him and his business partner at one point sold part of their business to, they don't really say it, but it sounds like it's a bit of a private equity company, and one of these companies which are more interested in selling the catalogue off for, car commercials and stuff rather than necessarily the purity of the music, man. So they've done that. There's a decision that's been made by his partner to sell his share of the business to the rest of them, which would dilute the share owned by Denzel Washington. So he's there thinking, I'm going to lose control of the business here. I'm not going to be able to make the music that I want. And so he comes up with this plan that he's going to take, I can't remember what the actual dollar figure is, but let's say it's $15 million, pay his business partner out, get his share of it, and then that way he's still got control of the business. So, he's got his plan in place. But it's a movie, something's got to happen, and unfortunately, on the same day that all this happens, his son gets kidnapped. All the days that could happen.
Oh, you're right, it's a movie, God.
Yeah, so his son's been kidnapped. Obviously, he's concerned. His wife's a little bit concerned. They're like, well, we've got to start paying the ransom, and so all that sort of starts happening, except, wait a sec, plot twist, wasn't their son kidnapped at all. Instead, it was the son of his good friend, who's also a valet driver, played by Jeffrey Wright. Who spent some time in prison, but, he's out and, he's trying to sort of make good, but he's, been working as a valet driver. And so Denzel Washington's stuck with this dilemma. Does he pay $17.5 million as requested from the ransom for his friend's son? And you've got the added issue, which is that if he pays this ransom, he doesn't have the money then to buy out his share of the business. So he's stuck with this dilemma of, do I do this?
What is
but this is where
making this sort of movie for?
Well, this is the thing. So it's like it's a kidnapping heist movie. It's really kinetic. It moves a lot. It feels big. It is bombastic. It's fantastic. There's this amazing sequence midway through the film where Denzel Washington's got some money in his backpack. The police are tracking him, and so he's got to make the drop, except not everything goes to plan, and it's all taking place on this train as a whole bunch of Yankees fans are on the train to go to a baseball game, which is nearby, and there's this great moment where one of the guys on the train, because Spike Lee, he loves his sports, loves his Yankees, likes New York as well. You may not be aware of this, but he really enjoys New York.
I understand that.
But literally in Spike Lee fashion, one of these guys on the train just turns and starts staring directly down the camera and is like, "The Yankees rule, Boston sucks." Fantastic. It's hugely entertaining.
Okay.
But it really comes alive. There's a Puerto Rican Day festival which is taking place at the same time.
Seinfeld style.
Exactly. And much like in Seinfeld, because this is when the drop is happening, the cops need to get through the Puerto Rican Day parade, and they can't do it. It's hilarious. I really loved it. I'm absolutely sure that is a nod to Seinfeld. I'm convinced of it. But anyway,
Right.
it's hugely entertaining. Like, it is big, it is bold. There's huge performances. You got Denzel Washington, you got Jeffrey Wright. Playing one of the cops is Dean Winters, who people know from Oz and 30 Rock, playing Liz Lemon's like awful boyfriend.
And all those ads that he's now the most famous for.
Yeah, but only US ads, so we don't really see them in Australian Simon. You just see them on the streams that you're
shout out
accessing.
to the US listeners. Yep, okay.
Yeah, look, it is fantastic. I really, really love this film. It is so loud and boisterous and fun. But I was talking about the dilemma that he's got, which is, does he pay the ransom or not? But what's like the real sort of interesting wrinkle in this one is that it's not so much that he makes the moral dilemma, like moral decision. Okay, and he's got this dilemma he's got to overcome. What ends up selling it is the idea that if he doesn't end up paying the money and follows his hardened dreams and just keeps the money for himself, then the story, which is broken out in the media and everyone's paying attention to this kidnapping because he's a high-profile person, social media will crucify this guy if he doesn't pay to like rescue his friend's son.
Sure.
So he knows that, yes, he can save the business, but to save the business, he needs to pay the money, which will then suddenly see the world turn against him, which would then cost him the business. So he's stuck in some moral decisions, which he's not even the master of his own destiny in that one. He's basically, at the whims of the world at large. It's a fascinating way to approach it, and it's interesting from a thematic idea, but just that Spike Lee visual style to it all. Like, this is cinema, Simon, even though you're watching it on TV.
I'm watching it on TV, exactly. I would suggest that Apple TV are far more respected for their high-end series television shows than they are for a slew of pretty frickin' average movies that they've made over the years. They throw money at big talent to get them on board. Is this polishing a turd? Is this making a silk purse out of a sow's ear for Spike Lee and Denzel? Were they given the bucks and had to make the most of a genre film?
This film... Okay, so look, I don't know that this is a film that necessarily began with Apple TV. My understanding is that Denzel Washington had this script and took it to Spike saying, hey, look, dude, let's make this movie. And so it just ended up with a team at Apple. This is everything you want from a big sort of budgeted Spike Lee movie. This feels like Inside Man from 2006. Okay, it is big, it is audacious, and it's great performances and script across the board. The only problem I have is that I just think that Spike Lee screwed up the final scene in the movie where it feels a little bit like a TV movie at the end. Right. Like just a little bit. It's just this one final scene that's tacked on. The scene could be removed. Well, actually, no. I don't think the scene can be removed because it's getting to a very specific point of the evolution of this character that we're following. But it doesn't feel like it's executed anywhere near as interestingly as the entire rest of the movie. But outside of that final scene, it's fantastic. This is like a 4.5-star picture for me.
Why haven't I heard about this? I know my movies, and I know Apple. They know how to promote. Why isn't this on billboards and sides of buses everywhere?
Look, I can't really necessarily speak to that. I mean, I can speak to the fact that critics everywhere have been talking about this movie quite heavily. I think that in film community, Simon, which apparently you're not tapping into, for whatever reason, people are talking about this movie.
I don't think anyone's talking about this movie. I've been all over my websites all week, and I've not heard a single buzz about the release.
Well, as I said, it came out last weekend, Simon, so it's like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well,
and maybe you don't remember that. Like, it's been a big week.
You should have reviewed it then. Why didn't you review it then?
Because I didn't see it last week, and I was too busy talking about the paper, which was one of the big... Sorry, Simon. TV's my beat, not movies. I've got to pick up when you're dropping the ball.
This is a TV movie. I'm not reviewing this. I don't even know it came out. I don't follow what's coming out on television. I do the cinema releases.
Aren't you talking about a Charlie Sheen documentary that you saw on Netflix
what
in just a few moments?
Watching? It's a major release, but I certainly didn't know anything about this movie.
Anyway, so this is highly reviewed on the Rotten Tomatoes, currently sitting at 86%, 85% audience score. Like, people are digging this movie.
Great. I might have to check it out now that I know about it.
Yep. Oh, look at Simon. He's a little bit butthurt because he hasn't heard about a Spike Lee movie where Spike Lee's been everywhere the last week promoting this thing.
Not anywhere that I've been looking at, and as the recently elected president of the Film Critics Circle of Australia, you'd think I would know about this, but I guess Apple have dumped this movie into the space and hopes people have picked it up. Why hasn't this gone to the movies? You said yourself 20 years ago the latest Spike Lee Denzel Washington film was Inside Man. That was a pretty average movie, but it found a cinema release. This has got a bit of a stink about it to me.
Look, I really like Inside Man. Also, you've never even heard of this film up until a few seconds ago.
Oh, I've heard of it. I just didn't know it had
let's
come
not
out.
call it a stink of a film if you haven't actually seen it, Simon. It's very good.
fine.
You would enjoy this.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's check it out. I will. I'm going to check it out. I love my Denzel. Denzel. Did you see the thing through the week where he's Denzel Jr.? And because his mother used to scream out, Denzel, and everyone had come running, like the father and Denzel had come running. You can cut all this bit out. I've forgotten the story anyway. Anyway,
this has been Story Time with Simon. Folks, let's move on. We're going to talk about what else we've been watching. Simon, let's talk about AKA Charlie Sheen. Run us through it.
All right, AKA Charlie Sheen is a 2-part documentary which allows Charlie Sheen, he of the blockbuster films back in the 80s and early 90s, through the life spiraling decline through the late 90s and 2000s, it allows him to re-emerge a little bit here. He's been sober for 8 years. He speaks directly to the camera. He puts a new perspective on some of the old shtick that he had to go through. He talks about addiction. He talks about abuse. He talks about family. Martin and Emilio didn't want to be part of this documentary. A lot of his other friends did. You've got Sean Penn, Tony Todd, John Cryer in there talking about the 2.5 Men years. All of which is interesting to watch, and is interesting to watch in a retrospective sort of way, having sort of grown up with Charlie Sheen and all his hits and misses. I was keen to see this. In the end, it kind of just allows him to put a fresh spin on a past life that maybe gives him a little bit more relevance and credence in this time, in this day and age. But it's good to see him come out the other side of it, even if some of the people that he dragged along through those horrible years haven't quite forgiven him for what he was and what he did. So the documentary is AKA Charlie Sheen, and it's on the Netflix. And then I decided to look at a...
So just really briefly, I haven't seen this yet. I'm kind of curious about it, but also I kind of feel that I've had my fill. We saw so much of Charlie Sheen through that, 2.5 Men era of his career,
sure. And
with
prior to
everything
that,
going off. Yeah, I kind of feel like I've had enough, and I'm not sure I really want to see a documentary just from his perspective. And this is the problem I got with a lot of these big celebrity docos at the moment, where the celebrities are so heavily involved in crafting a narrative around their story that it just kind of misses a little something. You may get the occasional insight, but it's not what it probably needs to be.
It's not all from his perspective. They speak to, like, Denise Richards is in there, Brooke Mueller is in there.
Yeah, but he's
Chuck
still the executive producer, Simon, so he gets the final cut as to what makes it through.
Once again, you haven't seen it, so you don't know what you're talking about. So I'm just saying...
But Simon, I'm just saying that's how these work. Like, he still gets the final say on it.
It's not how this one works. He's
but it is.
Very open. No, it's not. It's been very open about how he has allowed people with this documentary to have their say as well. And that's very true. The Chuck Lorres and the John Cryers and all those people through those 2.5 Men years, and the openness with which his exes talk about the times of drug taking and the abuse that they suffered and that they put upon him through those years is given it's a fairly even telling of the story. He comes across as an older man who knows he's made mistakes and who's survived addiction, and he's trying to put that spin on his later life. So that's interesting.
Yeah, but he still has ownership over it. He has final cut. That's the point, Simon.
But that doesn't mean it's going to be all his perspective. If he has final cut, his decision might be to let people have a look at people have a say about who he was.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, if somebody says something that he's not entirely that interested in seeing presented because it goes counter to whatever message he's trying to put out there, he still gets to stop it.
But how do you know?
Because he has final cut. Simon, I'm saying that the current raft of documentaries out there, which are all very much celebrity-led, they have a lack of authenticity purely because they do have the final say. Okay, so you're
talking in general terms.
I'm saying generally. So
right.
This is another one of those where the celebrity, they may allow some stuff to come through, but if there's something they're not really keen to see in there, it's not going to make it in there. And so this is the problem I have with all these documentaries, which is that as soon as the subject is the person who has the final say over the finished product, it loses something for me. Simon, tell me about the Lesbian Space Princess.
Well,
and is it princess or princesses? Is there one or multiple?
Oh, no, there's only the one Lesbian Space Princess. We should be clear of that. And I came to this because I know this is a movie that Charlie Sheen would be drawn to. He would want to watch a movie called Lesbian Space Princess. This is an animated film which tells the story of a young woman who lives on the... And I want to get the name right because it's a terrific bit of writing. She lives on the star known as Clitopolis, which is a lesbian planet.
Wait, sorry, where?
Yeah,
where?
You heard me. No, you heard me. Clitopolis.
Opolis?
Yes, that's the one. Her girlfriend gets kidnapped by the straight white Malians, which are voiced by the guys who do Auntie Donna. And she has to go on this deep gay Lexi adventure to rescue her ex-girlfriend, along the way coming into all sorts of not so subtle bits of animated humour about the gay lifestyle and a takedown of some of the straight lifestyle elements as well. This has travelled the world, this film. It's got a lot of film festival cred and a lot of feedback from both gay and straight audiences. A little bit blue in parts. This animation is not for the kiddies, I got to say at this point, although it probably will be a great sort of viewing experience for maybe young people, men or women, who are sort of struggling a little bit with their orientation, with discovering out their feelings at a young age. This will be like heaven sent for people at that point in their lives, and it's a lot of fun too. It has some good laughs, if a little bit blue in places. So check it out. This one's finally in cinemas. It's been bouncing around for like a year or so now. I think it premiered at Adelaide last year, but it's in the cinemas now.
Yeah, I was just on the Google Maps trying to find Clitopolis. I can't seem to find it.
No, you've got to be careful typing that into Google Maps because a whole lot of establishments come up that you haven't frequented since you got married.
Simon, the joke is I couldn't find it.
Oh, I didn't
Anyway,
get up on that. Look, Dan, don't start dropping clever jokes on me at this point of the podcast. I'm just not wary of them.
So look, the thing that I was going to talk about this week on the program was a TV series called Task.
Yep.
This is the latest miniseries from Brad Inglesby. He's the guy that made Mayor of Easttown a couple of years ago. We all love that.
No, see, I never got around to that. I always wanted to, just one that ran out of time on. But I do understand it is much revered.
Yeah, look, it's pretty good. And it was hugely compelling, and it was one of these shows which, you know, I think everyone was kind of there episode after episode, and people were just sort of trying to figure it out and trying to solve the mystery for everyone, and like it was just really good crime drama. With that sort of a heritage, people were really into the idea of what's Brad Inglesby going to be doing next.
Sure.
He's got this cast that includes people like Mark Ruffalo in there. And so, like, Mark Ruffalo, like, who doesn't want to watch a Mark Ruffalo thing? Like,
Quality, love the Ruff.
Hugely compelling. I always want to see what he's going to be doing. It's set in Philadelphia again. It's like a town or two over from Easttown, so it shares a lot of the same sort of DNA. The problem is, while Mayor of Easttown had this really sort of strong cast, including the aforementioned Juliette Nicholson, this doesn't really compel in the same way. Like the Ruffalo character, he's a bit boring. Like, you know, it's a bit hard to necessarily want to buy in. You got Tom, and I tried to avoid saying his name because I know I'm going to butcher the surname. Tom Pelfrey?
Pelfrey, yes.
I think is how you pronounce his name. It's one of these people that I've sort of seen mentioned around the place for years, and I've never actually really watched much with him. I know he's in Banshee. That's what I really know him from. But he's kind of like the other male lead in it. He's kind of like, you know, he's the bad guy, effectively.
I know, but quite a nuanced bad guy. Like the fact that he's running a family and he's kind of... He's a chilly sort of figure, but you can also warm to him very, very easily. Unlike Ruffalo, who's a total dick in this film.
So you saw the first one?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So it by Amelia Jones, big fan of Coda, and she's barely recognisable in this, but she's terrific.
Coda, that'd be an Apple TV Plus movie, right?
Yes, the one that won.
Yeah, okay, yeah, just confirming. Look, so I just found this a little bit boring for the most part, but I will say the last like 5 or 10 minutes of it really came alive. There's this action sequence which takes place as the business end of the show really starts to like take shape. It's a incredibly well shot sequence, and I was on the edge of my couch, like just trying to see what's happening, because there's some reveals that are taking place within this. Not huge surprises, but still like some reveals taking place, and really the entire show hinges on what takes place within this sequence. But I watched that and I thought, you know what, there's some really good filmmaking taking place here. I'm going to be with this for the rest of the season based off that one sequence. But it was just a bit hard to necessarily want to get out there and recommend this one, considering that, you know, I'd also seen Highest to Lowest during the week, and like that was just exceptional, whereas this was kind of just merely, it's fine.
I disagree.
It may prove over the like 6 to 8 episodes.
I think the slow burn start of this, when we're meeting the guys in their garbage truck plan and the drug house invasions, and also getting an insight into the Mark Ruffalo character, how he's, you know, dependent on alcohol and doesn't want to come back from a history of family tragedy. He's clearly on the outer with his teenage daughter. That's going to play into it. I thought this was a great first episode setup.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of felt these are the characters that I've kind of seen versions of in the past. It wasn't necessarily sort of hugely surprising, but I think part of the problem with the first episode is that it's adhering to the sort of HBO, everything is about like 50 to 53 minutes sort of first episode. That action sequence within their house that kind of sets everything up, if that had been brought sort of 15 to 20 minutes earlier into the episode, that probably would have livened up the episode a bit and given it something to sort of build from. Instead, it's kind of adhering too much to TV structure as opposed to maybe letting the story be what it needs to be. So, you know, that's I think maybe where it sort of goes. Well, I mean, it's the thing. That is what movies are for. But as TV, and this is my constant criticism of a lot of prestige shows that we see, is that they are trying to be filmic while still adhering to too much TV structure, and it doesn't necessarily always blend together as well as it probably needs to. And if you're doing TV, you also need your characters to be maybe sort of popping on the screen a little bit quicker and a little bit sharper than they are in this one, which is, again, nobody wants to see an 8-hour movie.
I can honestly say I don't think we've done an episode of the podcast where I could disagree with you more on every single thing you've said.
Why, about no one wanting to see an 8-hour movie?
Yes, I do disagree with that. There was a who was that famous artist who painted the tin cans? Andy Warhol film where he filmed the Empire State Building for 24 hours, and it became a highly sort of coveted museum piece. We should review that.
When was the last time we jumped on the couch and watched that one?
Oh boy.
Yeah, so what if you disagree with exactly the 8-hour movie comment, the fact that Spike Lee makes pretty good movies, that Denzel Washington knows how to act?
All of that.
You disagree with all of it?
I'm just taking a contrary stand. I think we need more conflict. I remember the days when we used to yell at each other in this podcast. It's just become, we need to get a bit more yelly.
I don't really want to yell, I want to cry.
Well, that opens us up to the question of what we'll be reviewing on next week's Screen Watching episode. We must be nearing 400, maybe 350. What are we interviewing? What are we reviewing next week?
It just feels like 400. We've actually only recorded 15 episodes of this.
It does, yes. I'm doing a big, bold, beautiful journey next week. That doesn't mean I'm going anywhere interesting, but I'm looking at Margot Robbie and Colin Farrell go on a little bit of magical realism.
I like the poster.
Yes, I don't like the trailer. It looks a little bit icky to me, but I like Margot Robbie.
I haven't seen the trailer. But I've seen the poster.
Do you have any idea what you're reviewing next week?
I have a general policy where I don't review, like, you know, second or third or fourth or fifth seasons of TV shows. Like, you know, once we've seen it, we've seen it. But, and this will be what else have you been watching? The Morning Show's back for season 4. The Morning Show might be the worst TV show in the history of the medium.
I know exactly what you're going to say already. You hate this show. Why are we reviewing season 2 of it?
Season 4.
Season 4 of it already?
It's because I've seen the first 3 seasons, and also I've already watched all of season 4. And
Lord.
Oh, God, Simon, I just need to talk. It's my annual purging as to how terrible this TV program is, from the opening credits through to the rest of it. None of it makes a lick of sense.
This is your And Just Like That. My wife, and by extension me, had to watch all the episodes of just that god-awful show And Just Like That which just staggers my mind that anybody allowed to happen. But I guess the morning show's your version of that.
But you didn't have to. I don't have to watch the morning show. Yeah, I still do it to myself every year. No one's asked me to do it. It's not a requirement. It's not like a court mandated thing, but I'm still doing it. But
like
Simon, what I'm
for
actually
this podcast. They don't have to listen to it, but they keep listening to it. And we do appreciate that.
The thing I'm actually going to be talking about is Black Rabbit, which is the new TV series dropping on the Netflix.com.
Yes.
This is the Jason Bateman and it's Jude Law is the other person. I'm not sure I'm expecting big things from it, but I'm curious.
Oh no, I am. That's a quality lineup. I am expecting big things from it. I'm expecting big things from your review of it, quite frankly.
Look, I will watch anything that has Jason Bateman in it. I've been a big fan of his since, back in the day, from when he was successful, when he was not successful. I've watched it all. I loved him in The Hogan Family. I loved him earlier than that in Valerie's Family. I even loved him in Valerie.
And then yet you hate his podcast.
I do hate his podcast. I hate it with a fiery passion.
No, see, I'm all over the Smartless podcast. Shout out to my friends at Smartless there. So.
If I want to watch smug assholes talking about smug bullshit, I've got this podcast.
That's exactly what I've said. And on that beautiful outpoint, Dan Barris, Screen Watching, you can find us at Screen Watching Podcast on Facebook, at Screen Watching on YouTube, where you can see all of this delightful banter live. And my Screen Space newsletter is on the Substack, where I'd like you to subscribe forthwith.
I'd like to end this podcast by telling people to go to Screen Watching. No, that's this podcast. Always Be Watching. That's my newsletter. People can sign up. It's free. It gives you all the news and information you need about all things TV and streaming. Also, the message that I'd like to really sort of look down the camera and just make sure everyone's fully across. The Yankees rule. Boston sucks! Folks, this has been Screen Watching.